Hello, MCU fans! Today we're going to be breaking down the big reveals from Secret Invasion Episode 4. Now, I do apologize for this video getting out a little bit late. I'm actually on vacation in New Mexico. I promise I'm not filming Breaking Bad 2. I'm just visiting some family. But I will try to keep up on the videos, but this one just was a little late, so I do apologize. But assuming that you've seen the episode, because there will be a lot of spoilers in this, then let's dive right in and see what we can find out. So right off the bat, I do want to take care of some unfinished business, if you will, from the previous episode. I got some comments on the last video asking, how on earth did no one know about Fury's Skrull team? We learned in episode 3, of course, that Talos said, you didn't start ascending in the ranks until me and 19 of my people signed on to your invisible spy network. So the 20 Skrulls basically working for Fury, going around doing espionage, learning secrets around the world. How did no one know about this? In particular, how did Hydra not know, right? I mean, Hydra had completely infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. to the point where even Fury didn't know Hydra was part of S.H.I.E.L.D. So wouldn't they have known? Wouldn't they have known anything Fury knew? And for that matter, how did the world not know? Remember in Winter Soldier, Black Widow disabled the security protocols and dumped all the secrets onto the internet. And as we learned, it was not only Hydra's secrets, but of course, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s secrets. So if the Skrull team existed, how did everybody not know? Hydra, the world, etc. Well, I think the answer is actually in episode 3 itself in the flashback. Remember, they flash back to New York City in 1998 when basically Fury and Priscilla are starting to flirt and experiment with their relationship. And we learn that Fury's secret Skrull agents were completely off the books. Because at first, Fury's kind of pushing back on Priscilla, saying, hey, there's a rule, that a commander of station and operatives cannot be. And she jumps in and says, our unit doesn't exist, Fury. That means I don't work for you. So that means the Skrull agents, his 20 agents, were completely off the books. They weren't part of the S.H.I.E.L.D. records, so they wouldn't have been dumped to the internet, and therefore Hydra couldn't have learned about them either. I'm guessing that Fury was pretty much the only one that knew these agents existed. Otherwise, I agree with the comments that were saying everybody should know. This shouldn't be a secret any longer. However, that then makes something from episode 2 look a little strange, because we learned in episode 2 that Rhodey said about 15 years ago, I was part of an eyes-only top-secret presentation. That's how Rhodey knew about the Skrulls, and he knew about them 15 years ago, which would have been time frame-wise a little bit before the Avengers movie. Well, okay, wait a minute. If these are completely off the books, if basically Fury's the only ones that knows they exist, then how did Rhodey learn about them? Well, this could be a plot hole, or it could be Rhodey is totally lying. Because as we now know, this isn't Rhodey, this is a Skrull. So he might be making that up to excuse why he knew about the Skrulls. He knew about them because he is a Skrull. There was no eyes-only top-secret presentation. Because again, Fury was keeping it a secret. No one knew. So, very interesting. I love your comments on this one. Tell me what you think. Both on the idea that the reason nobody knew about the Skrulls is because Fury kept them a secret, and the reason Rhodey, quote-unquote, knew about them is because he is a Skrull. So, very interesting. All right, so anyway, that's a little bit of unfinished business from the last episode. Now, on to this episode. And in particular, how Gaia survived. I think we all were guessing that in one way, shape, or form, we were going to get more of Emilia Clarke's character. Either her original, the human form that Gaia was simming, using as a shell was going to return, or Gaia herself would survive. Well, turned out that the guess was correct, that she got herself a little bit of a power-up, right? So she went to the scientists there that they've captured, and she learned about the experiments, which is interesting. Stop for a second and think about that. That means that it was actually humans, not Skrulls, that started these experiments because, Gaia went to her to learn some of the secrets. Very interesting. So maybe all of this research started with humans, not with the Skrulls. So I'd like a little more backstory on this. Who exactly was doing this experimentation? Is it AIM coming back? That's how they certainly would have known about Extremis. So very interesting. But yeah, I'd like a little more history on this to know who started this experimentation and when. But we also learn later in the episode that Priscilla herself has been doing some interesting experimenting. She wrote a book called Decoding the Superhuman Gene. Now that almost to me sounds like mutants, potentially. But certainly this would go with all this research of creating super Skrulls from superhero DNA. Very interesting. So I hope they give us a little more backstory on, who came up with the idea and why first. Who came up with it first? We know Gravik has taken it for his own, but who came up with it first and why? All right, so Gaia seems to only have given herself the extremis DNA, because notice she's going to get healing abilities and heat strength. Versus over on the left, rather, we can see the folder's open for extremis, but it's not open for the Frost Beast or for Collapsidium or Groot. So maybe she got all three or all four, but I kind of doubt it. I think she only got extremis. And that fits with the idea that she might be Abigail Brand, who, of course, in the comics had pyrokinesis powers, basically the ability to create fire. So, all right, so she gets her dose of extremis, which, again, they can handle this because they can handle radiation. I am really interested, though, with all this radiation going on, is it going to kill all the humans that are held in captivity? I hope they have an explanation for that. I mean, the Skrulls wouldn't want them to die because they need them to be alive to get information. So maybe they have them in some type of a lead room or something. We'll have to see how they explain that. But nonetheless, the Gaia gets her power up, and of course, voila, she is back. The healing power works really well. They have mastered that healing power. All right, so then we move to a flashback to Paris in 2012. I love all these flashbacks because they keep giving us more information about Priscilla and Fury's relationship. And in this case, we learn that Fury kept his creation of the Avengers secret even from Priscilla. Remember, this guy keeps secrets upon secrets, because she says, as I was watching all the news coverage of those guys, the heroics over in the States, the strangest thing, I kept having this feeling that someone I know had something to do with getting them all together. So obviously this flashback is taking place right after the Avengers movie. In fact, that article there is talking about the battle. It's in French, obviously, but it's the battle in New York. So it's probably not long after the movie. I mean, I'm sure Fury wanted a little downtime, and this was his vacation. But anyway, it's just interesting that even Priscilla did not know he was forming the Avengers, which goes perfectly with this idea that no one knew about his super secret Skrull team. So, all right, I love more of the de-aging. Man, they spent some good money on that. I've heard some complaints that his beard is a little too long. It doesn't look like his beard looked in Avengers, but I'm guessing that he had a little time off. This is maybe a week later, so that's a week's growth, and he's kind of just let it go. But anyway, love the de-aging. And then they share the poem by Raymond Carver, Late Fragment, which, of course, gives us the title of the episode, Beloved, but also gives us a lot of insight into the romance and the marriage between Priscilla and Fury. A beautiful poem, so many meanings behind it, but just basically this idea that I want to call myself beloved and to feel myself beloved on the earth. So very, very cool. Love that element to the episode. All right, so then present day finds Priscilla and good old Rhodey, who we now know is absolutely a Skrull, meeting together. In fact, I loved that it wasn't just a Skrull reveal. It was a reveal that it was a female Skrull. Wild, wild. And this whole mirror swipe transition was so cool. It goes by so fast, you almost might not notice it. But as the Skrull swipes her hand across the mirror, you can see there she's changing into Rhodey. And a little bit more, and then finally you get Rhodey. That was very, very cool. And we don't know a lot about Rhodey's backstory, but if there's a Mrs. Rhodey, this is going to be interesting explaining to her, not only have you been married to a Skrull, but a female Skrull. So yeah, that'll be some fun times. All right, so we do learn the Skrull's name is Rava, because in the credits, Rhodey Skrull / Rava, I guess it could be Rava. Somebody tell me in the comments. I could be mispronouncing it because I don't know they use her name in the episode, obviously. But Rava, I'm going to use, is her name. And in the comics, Rava was a rogue Skrull pirate. Now, a lot of times they just pick a name from the comics for fun. Other times it's to maybe hint at some characteristics about the character in the MCU. And in this case, I am beginning to wonder if Rava kind of is going off on her own and doing, she's working for Gravik, but kind of doing things on her own agenda. We're going to see in a second here. So kind of keep that in mind. So I don't think they're going to do all the things they did in the comics with her. I mean, she was with Black Bolt and some other heroes and villains and lots of interesting storylines. We're not going to get any of that. But I do think she may be rogue. So keep that in mind. All right, so I'm going to go with Rhodey. I know people have gone with Scrody, which just kind of grosses me out a bit to even say that. But anyway, I'm going to go with Rhodey because that uses a little bit of her name, a little bit of his. But anyway, so Rhodey says something very interesting. He says, President Ritson doesn't find out that the sun's come up unless I brief him. Keep this in mind. I mean, they're basically painting Ritson to be not the brightest president. And, you know, we've had some not too bright presidents. I'm not going to go any further than that. You can decide on your own. I'm not going to get political. But I'm just saying sometimes people rise to power beyond their capacity to be in that position of power. But anyway, they're basically painting Ritson to be, you know, not entirely bright. Keep that in mind. That's going to come into play later in some theories for where the series is going to go, and even the future beyond the series. But here's where I think Rhodey is kind of doing things on her own. She's telling Priscilla, I'm the one telling you to kill Fury. Not Gravik. I am. Because I think Gravik has been trying to keep Fury alive. He's fine with killing everybody around Fury. But for whatever reason that I think we'll eventually learn, Gravik doesn't want to kill Fury, and Fury's having trouble killing Gravik. So that is interesting. I'm the one telling you to kill Fury. Gravik does not even know. All right, but Priscilla, who is either aware or not aware, we're not 100% sure that she's being bugged, tries to push Rhodey away by saying, hey, Fury, the one with the ability, the one who was indispensable to us, that Fury is gone. He'll be dead from exhaustion and defeat soon enough. So she's basically saying we don't need to kill him. He's worthless, which goes with this theory that a lot of people have had, that Fury is downplaying his abilities. He's acting older and more feeble than he really is. I mean, we saw him break that dude's arm in the second episode, the security detail of Rhodey's. So he's resourceful. But so he's been playing the long game and pretending to be a lot more worthless than he really is. But I'm sure that hurt him to hear that from Priscilla. So I don't know. Tell me your guesses in the comments. Do you think she knows she was bugged, or do you think she's just being honest and she's done with him? But anyway, so we're going to see what happens there, and we'll leave that scene for now. And we move on to Gaia and Talos having, just a heart-wrenching scene, especially considering that I do believe Talos is dead, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. But this means this was their last conversation. Wow. But anyway, so Gaia says to Talos, okay, you got to tell me, what's your plan? Gravik has a plan. It's working. What's your plan? And he says, first, we take down the insurgency. Once that's done, we go to the president, we have a big bargaining chip, and we say, guess what? We saved your planet. Now give me a little something in return. Now, what's interesting is I think that plan would work. Now, Gaia doesn't, obviously, but I think it would, because that plan worked for the Asgardians, right? I mean, Thor had saved the planet, 3 or 4 times by the time that they had no planet anymore. And granted, there's not a million of them. I don't know how many there are, but probably not a million, but there were a lot. And they came to Earth and were allowed to settle. I mean, they're aliens. Now, granted, they're not green-skinned aliens, but they're still aliens, and they were allowed to settle on the Earth without an issue. So I'd actually think Talos' plan would work. And we're going to see that he actually does his plan at the expense of his own life. So keep that in mind. But anyway, whether I like his plan or not, Gaia does not. Gaia basically says he's delusional, she doesn't like his plan, and she walks away. So again, this is the last moment that I think they spend together, because I do believe Talos dies in this episode. And wow, how painful. How painful. Just a reminder that, you know, sometimes you want to tell somebody off, especially somebody close to you. Sometimes you get angry at family. It may be the last time you see them. Just remember that before you say something that you wish you hadn't said. But anyway, wow, painful ending there. All right, so back to Fury and Priscilla. Priscilla notices that he's stopped wearing his ring. And sure, he writes it off as, I forgot, I came in the back door. No, Fury didn't forget stuff. This was the signal that their marriage is over. And it is worth noting from this picture here, though, I want to point out, this one bust on the wall kind of looks Skrull-like. Look at that chin, you know, and that's going to play a very important role in just a moment in their little gun duel. But yeah, that's kind of wild. Now, obviously, it's not a Skrull, because these are all busts of probably something Shakespearean and plays, but still, that chin, you got to love it. Kind of Skrull-like. All right, so, man, their scene together is just heartbreaking and so well acted by both of them. In fact, this entire series has been filled with such good acting. But yeah, for Fury to say, you know what, even now, as I sit here, knowing you plan to kill me with that pistol of yours, I don't know that if I had a chance to do it all over again, that I'd have done anything different. Man, wow. It's just intense. What an amazing scene between the two of them. Also, he does ask, hey, why did you choose this shell? What was your reason? Why did you do this? And she has a very interesting answer. She was looking for someone who would slip your defenses. And we're talking slip his defenses when he was super, super spy Fury. That is impressive. She did quite a feat to slip his defenses like that. But what's also very revealing is the person who she chose as her shell died, and she assumed her life, basically. But one of the 3 promises that Priscilla made to her was that I would never hurt you. So that left you kind of wondering, okay, are you going to keep that promise or not? So then they recite that poem from earlier in the episode, and as they hit the last beat of that poem, boom, they each fired each other. So intense. I mean, and the fact that they then, the camera pans around the apartment, leaving you wondering who killed who. I thought one of them killed the other one. I probably didn't think Fury died. I thought he killed her. Nope. It turns out they both missed. Fury hits that Skrull bust, giving it one eye. That's funny. And then she, of course, Priscilla, hits the wall. And only Fury can take a moment like this and give us a one-liner. I'm not sure if this means we should get divorced or we should renew our vows. Love it. Absolutely love it. You know, let me just say, I've heard a lot of people complaining, and that's fine. Everyone's allowed to complain if they don't like something, saying, this just isn't the series for me. It's not like the comics. The comics had superheroes, all this craziness going on, the fights. This is not that. And they're right. It's not. It's not. But if you accept that they didn't adapt the comics in this case directly, and you accept it for what it is, oh man, these scenes are so good. They're so intense. They're so well acted, so well written. I love this series. And I totally respect if you don't like it and you're still on the fence. But all I'm saying is just accept that it's not the comics and give it a shot. Well, they just gave it a shot. They gave it 2 shots, but give it a shot because this is some of the best acting we're ever going to see in the MCU by an ensemble cast. Amazing. All right, so then we really do feel the pain of the breakup. You know, she asks him, would you have loved me if I'd never changed? If I'd been my true self? Kind of goes back to that beloved poem, right? And Fury, as he walks out, says, I guess we'll never know. So yeah, their marriage is over. It's kind of wild how this series started with us not even knowing he was married, and yet in just 4 episodes, they have given us such depth to their relationship via the flashbacks and the present day stuff. I really feel like I've experienced his marriage. I was very sad at their breakup. So yeah, kudos to the writing team for making us feel their relationship, care about their relationship, and then be so sad about their breakup. All right, so I do think the old Fury has still got it, because man, is he back to his scheming ways as he breaks in to talk to Rhodey and said, you know, I didn't like the way we left things between us the other day, you know? I mean, for real, though, you know, us brothers got to stick together. You got to love it. He's just trolling him. He's just trying to lure him into a false sense of security. And obviously, if they were to fight each other right now, Rhodey would win. You know, she's got the Skrull powers, or Skrull strength, rather, I should say. May even have some of the DNA splicing. We don't know. But certainly has Skrull strength. But Fury is calm and cool and relaxed. Pretty awesome. Offers an innocent-looking gift. 23 years of distilled perfection. Pappy Van Winkle's Family Reserve. You got to love it. $5,000 worth of 24-karat liquid gold. Now, what I think is wild is this... I don't know if it's a product placement. I don't know if Marvel worked with the actual Pappy Van Winkle, but hey, it actually exists. You can buy this stuff, 23 years old even, and it is as expensive as they make it sound in the episode. So that's pretty wild. If Marvel didn't get paid for this product placement, then man, the Pappy company, Pappy Van Winkles, they're very happy right now. And actually, it's not the first time we've seen it in the MCU. A very brief, blink and you miss it, in episode 2 of She-Hulk, when GLK&H was offering the job to Jen Walters, they also offered her a very expensive bit of bourbon. So yeah, they don't mention it. They don't say it's Pappy Van Winkle, but you can tell that's the bottle right there. So pretty funny. Good old Pappy finding his way all throughout the MCU. All right, so this ain't just any bourbon, though. This bourbon's been bugged. And it's kind of funny, call back to episode 2 when Rhodey says, should I worry about the poison? And he says, no, poison? No, nanotechs. And actually, Fury was being serious because it is bugged. And then I love that he trolls Rhodey here and says, hey, there are Skrulls inside the U.S. government. And there's a Skrull mole very close to the president, as close as you and I are right now, closer. So I don't know whether Rhodey realizes that Fury's basically outing him and saying, I know you're a Skrull. Doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like it. But nonetheless, Rhodey does point out, hey, look, I got some leverage against you. I got proof that you killed Maria Hill. Now, this is interesting. I don't know whether anybody else is aware of this little scheme. I mean, people know that Fury showed up in Russia, because obviously there was this event where Rhodey had to go and settle things with the different nation leaders. And so they know Fury was in Russia. But do they know Fury killed Hill? I'm guessing no. I think this is something that Rhodey set up. Maybe even the president doesn't know about this. Gravik obviously does. But I'm just saying that's interesting, because if people knew that he quote-unquote killed Hill, I would think he'd be in a lot more trouble than he already is. I mean, he got fired, sure. And they called it a disaster in Russia. I mean, this whole discussion here, they're like, hey, why were you there? What's going on? What are you hiding, U.S.? But anyway, I just think that's something Rhodey is holding close to the vest. But we'll see. Let me know what you think. Does anybody else know about that little framing job they did on him? But anyway, Talos and Fury go on, sigh, one last mission together, because Talos ain't going to make it out of this, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it talks about the liquid location tracker. So yeah, Fury is back in action, man. He is full spy mode again. And the target is, of course, Ritson. Gravik wants to kill Ritson, which, of course, with the disaster in Russia, it's going to look like the Russians did this. That's World War III. So it's a brilliant plan. It's a brilliant plan. But I do love Ritson saying, hey, let's make sure the colonel here has a large coffee for the road, because, of course, he smells that bourbon on his breath. And then this cute little scene where Rhodey's saying, yeah, get me a mint. And notice that's his security guard, who still has the broken arm from episode 2, which is kind of funny, because Rhodey should realize Fury is still top of the game, because he took down that guard in seconds. You know, just whoop, snapped his arm. So yeah, it's kind of funny that he's not seeing the hints right before him. But nonetheless, yeah, that he still makes that guard open the door for him. Wow, what a jerk. But anyway, so Ritson is their target, and remember, you know, they want to blame it on the Russians, because we saw earlier in the episode where Gravik's saying, hey, we want them to think it's the Russians. So I love that Rhodey basically tips off Gravik, says, hey, I know where Citadel is, the president. He's in number 4. So that's how they knew exactly which car to bomb. So yeah, good old Rhodey. Man, that dude is evil. So, man, we get some incredible action scenes in this episode. The budget certainly was spent in a large amount on this episode. Just some really, really good stuff. I mean, explosions, the president getting rocked. We finally see this scene that we saw in all the trailers where he gets rocked. And honestly, I thought he was going to die in this scene. That had been my guess. He doesn't. So I'm going to get to that a little more in a moment. But very interesting that he does not actually die. But the plan to frame the Russians was working, because they're sitting here yelling in Russian, and we get a clear signal from the Americans that it's like, no question, it's the Russians. So yeah, this would have been World War III had they got to the president and killed him. And then Rhodey is definitely not, quote unquote, watching their 6. You hear them over the intercom say, watch your 6, cover. But if you remember, I believe the real Rhodey was in Endgame, because I do not think this is Skrull Rhodey here. Because notice here he's saying, you guys watch each other's 6. Versus here he's listening to them say, watch your 6, while they're all getting blown away by his own forces. So I don't know for sure when Rhodey became a Skrull, but I do think it was after Endgame at least. I know Kevin Feige has alluded that maybe some of the movies he wasn't Rhodey. Okay, I mean, I'm willing to accept whatever they give us, but this just seems to me like the real Rhodey here, when obviously this is not the real Rhodey here. But anyway, nice callback to the watch each other's 6. All right, so we get more fantastic action scenes as the president's security detail takes down a helicopter, boom, and huge crashes. And then Fury proves he still knows how to throw down, shoots his own rocket launcher, and takes out another one of the helicopters. And, of course, that was a nice callback to the Avengers movie when he also had a rocket launcher. And, man, he looks so cool there. So incredibly cool. And he takes down, another ship, jet. So yeah, very, very cool. But this time, you got to wonder if maybe Fury's aim was a bit off or just unfortunate, because that's the president's car right there, and the helicopter is heading straight for it. You can see it out the window. You know, the president's sitting there upside down, knocked out, and boom, explosion. So how ironic if Fury would have actually done Gravik's job for him by killing the president in an explosion. Nonetheless, Fury's presence drives Gravik over the edge, because up to this point, things have been going great. Perfect according to plan. But when they realize Fury's here, you can just see the look on Gravik's face. He is not happy. And basically gives up pretending to be Russian, because Russians can't do that. As far as I know, Russians cannot do that. But he uses his Groot power. So now we've seen him use Extremis and the Groot power and just crushes this dude. Oh, you hear his bones cracking. Yikes. Then the British military show up to help, which is great. Reinforcements are here, sir. Now, what's interesting, this is another reason I think that the world doesn't know about Fury supposedly killing Hill, because the British were fine. They didn't care. In fact, they recognize, oh, you're Fury. They probably still want to know what he was doing over there, but he is a spy after all, so they let that go, I suspect. Or Falsworth explained to them, you know, Fury's cool. But I just thought it was interesting. They immediately trusted Fury. So I think some of this leverage that Rhodey has over Fury has been kept secret. Just my opinion. I love the formation. That is so cool as they hold the line and head in there to go help. And then Gravik shoots Talos. Man, ouch. And you see him just losing his shell, losing his ability to be simmed. Some of the looks on his face where he's half Skrull, half human. Gosh, it's just painful. But still, throughout all of that, Talos manages to free the president, which, like I said earlier, he ironically did his plan. He just didn't expect it to go this way. He thought he would just go to the president and say, hey, we knocked out the insurgency, we saved your life. No, as it turns out, he literally saves the president's life. And then this is where I think it all falls into play, because those British soldiers realize he's an alien. He's trying to get to Ritson. Of course, Fury shouts out, no, he's with me, he's with me. But so this is where I think it's going to be revealed, A, there's Skrulls, now everybody's going to know, and B, that sure, there's a lot of bad ones, but this one tried to save the president. So, you know, in a way, Talos died fulfilling his plan. Wild. So, yeah, Fury grabs the president, takes him off, takes him away to save him, and Gravik, meanwhile, assumes one of the soldiers, and kills Talos. Fury calling out, put him down. Nope. Boom. Kills him. And I really do think he's dead. We already saw he was already hit, and now that would have made a grievous injury in and killed wherever their heart is or whatever internal organs are important to Skrulls. They were hit there, without a doubt. And man, that look on Fury's face, we have never seen him look that distressed, that, you know, overwrought with emotion. So, wow, fantastic acting by Sam Jackson, but also just to see Fury, his best friend. I mean, maybe one of his only friends, now that Hill is dead, because I would have considered Hill also one of his best friends, both dead. Several of the Avengers dead, but now to have Talos killed right in front of him. So he shoots Gravik and basically realizes, I don't know how we kill this dude, because Gravik heals right up from that. Man, crazy. So I think Gravik would have got the president right then and finished this off, except more reinforcements were coming, and Gravik finally realized, I gotta get out of here. But look at his just look of disdain and disgust as he looks at Talos. No pity for Talos. He is very glad he killed him. And they just drive off with him laying there on the ground. But then Fury also has no choice but to leave Talos' body behind. And I'm sure that really crushes him. He had to leave Hill behind. This is the second time Gravik has killed a best friend right in front of him, and then he's been forced to leave their body behind. Got to really kill him. You can just see his face, how sad he is, how painful this is for him as he drives away, leaving Talos on the ground. Tell me what you think, but I do not think this is a fake out. I don't believe at all Talos has Extremis, so we're not going to see him get up like Gaia did. But I think his death is very important to resolving this whole, to moving forward the narrative that we're seeing, you know, that now people know there's Skrulls, and there are good Skrulls and bad Skrulls, but that Talos sacrificed his life. So while this death maybe felt even a little quick and really painful, it might be one of the most meaningful deaths of the series. So, yeah, tell me what you think, but I think we've lost him for good. Now, let's talk, though, about Ritson, because remember, Ritson's alive. He's alive. I thought he was going to be dead. And we know we're going to be getting President Ross down the road. So what's going on? I think that line that Rhodey had earlier when he said, man, Ritson wouldn't know the sun rose up if I didn't tell him. I think Ritson's going to get impeached because he allowed the closest person to him, Rhodey, to be a Skrull, and he didn't even know. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. I don't think Ritson's going to die. I could be wrong. Tell me what you think. Is Ritson eventually going to get killed, or instead is he going to get impeached for basically allowing this Skrull invasion to happen underneath his nose? So, man, this series is really moving forward, and there's only 2 episodes left. I can't wait to see where it's going. Let me know what you think. Are you disappointed? Are you excited? Are you liking what you're seeing? Are you disliking what you're seeing? Tell me what you think. And as always, I mentioned that we do have a Discord server. We'd love to have you join there. And as maybe a little extra enticement, we're having a hot takes poll. Basically, on the server, we've asked people, give us your hot takes. So as you can see, this one from Crota said, Tony Stark is one of my least favorite characters in the MCU. That's a hot take. So you have to defend it. If you join our Discord server, you can actually read how people defended these hot takes. But even if you don't want to join the Discord server, you still can take this poll and look at some of the different hot takes people have made. And then I'm going to do a video out of the hottest of the hot takes. So I will leave a pinned comment that gives you an invite to the Discord server, but also an invite to take this poll if you're interested. So we'd love to have you join us on the server if you'd like. Also, if you don't mind, like this video, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out more content, and we can all continue to enjoy the ever-growing, ever-changing Marvel Cinematic Universe.